Oh, she's staring at me through the fireplace. What,
Staring
Val?
through your soul, as people say. Alright.
What day is it, Jared?
19.
19.
We're in the teens.
How are you feeling about it now?
Scared?
Alright, so we're here, and we're going to do an experiment called the RMR, and that is the resting metabolic rate. And so what's going to happen is we're going to put him in this astronaut space dome here, and we're going to have him just literally just lay on the bed and just breathe and tend, just to have your body in a natural position. We do not want him sleeping or talking, but what we're trying to find is the resting metabolic rate. So how much energy he's burning, or how many calories he's burning without doing anything. So yeah, he's going to stay here for half an hour, and the goal for him is to essentially just not fall asleep.
We'll see how it goes.
So if you want, you can so I'll put this on here. We're going to have a tube going to this hood here. That's going to take, not necessarily take the oxygen out, but take samples of air content out of the little dome so we can measure his CO2 and oxygen content. It. So before we started the test, I had to ask what his metrics were, and so given
age, weight,
height, and gender, right? And so given in a non-injured population, the average kilocalories per day expenditure is around 1639. And so when Jared is resting here, from what I saw, so usually when we do this experiment, we want participants or injured participants to be around 80% of their expected, and so 80% of 1600 would probably be around, let's see,
15.
Be around
13.
13, right?
Yeah.
And where Jared landed, he landed around, let me do a quick one right here. He actually landed 1637, which is just one less than the expected. So he's around, I'd say 99.99% of where we would like him to be. So it was great.
Okay.
Usually they start around, below, or around 80%. So being at 99% is pretty good. So
Awesome.
yeah.
So we have all these electrodes. They're gonna go from pretty much like right here all the way around, and it looks at your heart. The point of a 12 lead is that you have all this electrical activity in your heart, and so whenever you put these electrodes on, you can kind of see where in your heart certain things happen. So if you have a normal ECG, then you would see that depolarization starts in the atria, and then it kind of moves all the way down to the ventricles. And so on the 12 lead, you can look at different planes and you can track it and make sure that everything's normal. So since we're putting the stimulator in, we kind of like to, it's like a safety precaution. The stimulator is electricity, and so we want to make sure that after you have the stimulator on, we're not changing any of the electrical activity of your heart. So it still contracts normally. There's no what we call ectopic beats, where the ventricles kind of contract on their own and ignore the rest of your heart. So we do this prior to surgery, prior to implantation, and then we do it at every intervention after that. And it's just kind of informative, really.
Mm-hmm.
So it's going to take me probably 10 minutes to put the electrodes on, and then I will record for 15 seconds, and then we'll be done.
Alright.
The way these work is these are unipolar electrodes, and electrodes read like positive to negative. So I'm going to have 4 on the outside part of your torso. So up here in your pectoralis muscles, and then down here on your abdomen. And then I'll have the rest of them, they're going to be right around your heart. So it's going to start like in the 3rd intercostal space and kind of move all the way around to the 6th on the side of your rib. Makes like a little semicircle.
Cool.
It's pretty awesome.
Like, by measuring the electrical activity, it knows which areas of my heart are firing at which times to make sure it's in a correct sequence and nothing.
Mm-hmm.
Gotcha.
So the way your heart is situated is it's suspended. It's kind of cushioned by your lungs, but nothing really keeps it in place. So it starts like right here between the 2nd and 3rd intercostal space. So that's where we put the first electrodes. And so then like if we have this electrode and this electrode, it makes a little plane. And that plane kind of watches what section fires first. And so if your ventricles fire before your atria, then you know that there's some kind of dysynchrony happening. And then actually, it sounds very ominous and scary. It happens a lot because your heart is dependent, like it fires based on the sodium and potassium concentration in your body. So like if you exercise a lot and you get depleted of your electrolytes, you can have some sort of dysynchrony that happens, and usually it's temporary. But what we like to see with these sort of resting 12 leads is we're looking at your baseline. We're not really looking for ectopic beats. We're looking at the amplitude and like the distance between all of the little peaks. Because you could lay here right now, if you were on an antibiotic, you could have 1 million ectopic beats and it would be totally normal. It would be just a side effect of your medication. So
I am on antibiotics right now.
well, we may see some.
Okay.
Like I was saying, these 2 guys are at the top of your heart, so we're going to look at the atria. The way your heart is situated is it's kind of angled anteriorly, so the base of your ventricle like points forward, or the apex, points forward. The base is backwards. So whenever this guy that's on the side, he should actually be looking at like the back side of the ventricle kind of coming forward. And this right here actually is pretty much where your heart is. So this is they call it PMI, which is the point of maximum impact, because sometimes if your heart beats, it actually comes against your rib cage, and so you can hear it right there.
Huh.
Just all these things you learn.
Yeah.
Okay, that looks good. So this is essentially all it is. It's very very boring for all of that prep. But yeah, right now 44, 50, that sounds about right. Because your heart rate's pretty low normally, right? Okay, so
We're going to start out and we're going to get your abdominal aorta, which is coming in right here, and we're going to get a velocity from that and compare it to your kidneys, because if the ratio is above 3, that you could have some stenosis or narrowing of the renal artery.
Okay.
Which, unless you have like super high blood pressure or have had this in the past, we're probably good.
So is that all we're looking for today?
Then we'll switch to your bladder, and I'll get some pictures of your bladder, and then we will go to both kidneys. So just kind of looking at the overall structure and function, make sure there's no cysts or mass, any stones, anything like that. Okay. See that circle right in the middle? That's your bladder. That's the catheter that's kind of holding it open.
Right.
Get right on top Alright, so now we're gonna go to the right kidney. So we're just gonna take a bunch of pictures, get flow again. I may have you take a breath in, I may have you blow it out. It all depends. This is a big one for rib interference. So sometimes taking a breath in will pull the ribs out of the way, so
Gotcha.
we'll see. And so this big thing here is your liver. And it likes to be the star of the show. And this is a rib, okay?
Okay.
So your kidney's hiding right there. So 2 ribs. So let me move around a little bit to see if I can get away. The ribs are the enemy. So take a breath in and hold right there. Take that one, breathe, but you can get it better than that. So here you can see this is artery and this is vein. So see how close they are? You're picking them both up. So that one's kind of hard to, everybody's like that. Gives me a pain. To the left and then that's it. Do it both ways. Long is when you see it spread out, and then transverse, I turn this and it kind of cuts it in half, so you're only seeing half of it. Just FYI.
Yeah. I'm really surprised at how much breathing affects the picture.
Mm-hmm.
So sensitive.
Yeah, and it's that way with your heart too.
Yeah.
Ultrasound doesn't like certain things.
Well, I guess that makes sense. It's sending sound waves through more air.
Yeah, and air, the sound wave hits it and it scatters it. Now, when you hit bone, or something like collagen, something thick, the sound wave hits it and bounces back, so you get that bright white.
Okay.
So, but like liquid blood, it goes through, so it's black. So if you remember the aorta, the center of it was black because it's filled with blood. So the ultrasound waves pass through that, so it comes back as a dark image. But like on the outside of the vessel, you have muscle and then some connective tissue. It hits that and it comes back. Some goes through and some bounce back, and you get kind of that delineated white border. So, and muscle, it likes muscle. Muscle is pretty good for ultrasound because some go through and some come back. So you have varying degrees of light and dark.